Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we're going to do a little bit of, hopefully, unbiased science. And today we're going to compare our two different orange stacking collab protectors. The Tales of Rimuru and the Fern Himmel. Both are collabs. Both are orange stacking protectors. And they both do slightly different things. And one has more damage output in Rimuru, one has a bit more ease of use in Himmel, because Himmel has built-in orb changing, but not as much raw damage potential. Meanwhile, Rimuru has a lot more damage potential, because he's stacking two different buffs that are a bit more impactful than Himmel's, but no orb changing. So today I want to do some basic science, be like, let's get some baseline numbers, and then let's see how efficient it is to use a team that I've built, which is going to be this team. And, see how effective it is, how much damage it can actually output when it's fully buffed up, and how easy it is to run. So we're going to bring Warrior's Mind Blanc, because it's an orange team, and she's the best thing on orange teams ever. We've got Divine General Diablo for synergy rate and power. We've got the new Xion for crit. We've got Fern as our nuking character. Now, we're going to go into Predator Battle, which is type neutral. So, we're not going to get any extra damage buff from Himmel because we're using Fern. We're just going to get the 25% stacks from magic characters because Fern is magic. And she's got her own personal buffs. And then we've got the Fern Raphael, just to make things a bit easier for us during this test. And, assuming we can use all of the buffs, we can get like a baseline alt number for Fern, and then fully buffed up, and kind of go from there. The difference in stats from a 112 Rimuru to 112 Himmel is quite low. It's like 2759 versus 2744. Yeah, it's like a 5-point difference in attack, so there's no real change there. And the stats, 14,480, 14,495. So very minimal differences between the two protectors. But let's go ahead and jump in with our first test. Okay, so starting off, we're just going to get a baseline EX alt damage number with no additional modifiers minus this defense down trait from Xion that we're going to have on both runs. So I just want a basic number, just to see what she starts at. So this is with Protector Rimuru. We have the EX alt. We're proving that she has no additional buffs on her. It's literally just what she comes with. So let's go ahead and send this alt, and we get a 64,117 damage number. Okay, cool. What do we get if we change that out for Himmel? Well, let's do it again. So here, again, we don't have any additional buffs on. We have the defense down trait still active up there, but nothing else here. We're not getting the extra damage done to Dark Attribute because the Centipede is type neutral, so that is not a factor. And now when we send Fern's alt, we get 64,055. So there's like a 100-point difference in damage right there. So they are very, very, very close. And that's just to prove that we're in the same kind of ballpark of starting basic stats. And the only things that are really going to change are the actual stacks of each protector. So now let's come back after we get a few stacks of each of them, and then compare the damage output. Okay, we are back. We're on turn 7 now. The turns don't really matter. It's just the amount of stacks we've got for Fern. But here, we'll go look. We don't have anything on Fern as far as alt buffs is concerned. The only thing that we have going for us is the elemental buff. So we've got 120% by using Himmel. That is 6 stacks of Himmel. So that's what we're going to kind of start at. 6 stacks of Himmel versus 6 stacks of Rimuru. So 120% element damage. We know that, that's good, but it's not super duper good, and it's certainly just one buff. So the weakness strike doesn't matter, the damage done doesn't matter, still the same attack stats. Only thing we have is 120% element buff. And I think we should still have the defense trait unless we swap Xion out. I don't remember. No, we don't. Okay, not a big deal. But let's go ahead and send it, and we get now 149,000 damage. So, a little bit more than double the amount of damage we got from her base starting alt with Himmel, which makes sense, because it's 120%. So it's a little bit higher than double. So what happens if we then use Rimuru instead, who is now buffing alt damage 30%. So looking at this, we have 180%, so 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. 6 stacks, just like we had for Himmel. 6 stacks of alt damage, plus 6 stacks of the magic attack damage buff right here. Magic attack damage, boom. So we're buffing 2 different things now. Magic damage, and we know magic damage is a multiplicative buff. We know how powerful it is because we've been using Blanc for the past 3 months, right? And then alt damage, 180 is a decent amount. So let's see what kind of number we get out of Fern with this run, with 6 stacks of Himmel, or 6 stacks of Rimuru, and nothing else. So we'll go ahead and close that. Oh, we do have a defense down trait, so I missed that. I think it's like an 8%, which 8% defense down doesn't mean anything. Maybe you can subtract like 300 damage from our number, but, you know, keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and send this, and Fern now does 291,000 damage. So 291 versus, what did we get up here? 149. That is a huge difference already. That is a massive, massive damage difference just with 6 bare stacks of Rimuru versus Himmel. So obviously, yeah, Rimuru, by double buffing very important buffs, is going to output a lot more damage, or help units output a lot more damage than just 120% elemental damage. But now let's put it all together. Let's get every single buff active on Fern, but also let's show like an actual run and see how much fun it is for both teams. Okay, we're going to go at pretty fast speed. We've already used the Orb Steel with Raphael here on turn 1. This is the Himmel team setup. So we're going to have probably an easier time here because we can convert a lot of orbs. And alongside bringing Raphael, you know, our life is made fairly simple. So we bring Raphael in, we take Fern out because she has her EX ult now. Let's use the Steel, let's use the orange buff, and then using Himmel gives us that orb change. So now we have a full 6-hand set of oranges. And while the blues in this stage specifically are not nerfed, in other stages where you're meant to use an orange team, blues are probably nerfed. You don't want to send blues. They're not going to give you jack crap. But here, magically, we have 6 oranges. Why is that? Because Himmel passively changes 3 orbs. So right here, I technically don't have to do anything. I don't have to use Raphael's Orb Steel. Like, I can, but I'm not going to because, you know, we already have 6 oranges. And then we've got 250 points, which means that we can start buffing Fern early, right? We can use multiple buffs next turn, and look at this, another hand that's going to be full oranges. Okay, fantastic. All right, let's use the crit buff. Let's use that. Let's use some other buffs. Actually, we already used a couple buffs. So let's bring Diablo in, and then let's use that. But oh no, we swapped out an ult. What are we going to do? We didn't steal it with the hero, or with Raphael. Well, Himmel will change that one too. So he's continuing our 6. Now the only downside is that sending that Xion ult does kind of interrupt our flow, because it's not acting like an orange orb, where Rimuru would actually help us with that. But here we have 4 orbs, 3 of them get changed, but since we already have 2 Raphaels, we can just steal, and that'll become an orange orb. And, you know, this is also very dependent on just having Raphael in general. But we're not here to showcase that thing. We're just here to showcase the run with Himmel. And we're going to use the exact same team setup. And, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But here, you know, we have a lot of points. We've used pretty much all of the damage buffs now. So we just need to bring Fern in here on turn 6. And I think we're going to go with 5 stacks of each protector now. That way we don't make this super duper long. But we should be good, because we've already used all the other buffs. We've had many points leading up to this. So let's do her double buff right there. And let's go ahead and send it and see what our damage number actually looks like. This should be our 5th stack of Himmel. Let's check that. And then we've got EX ult damage 100%. That's from Fern's own buff. And then Fern herself has 100% element damage, which is 5 stacks. Plus the magic attack damage, plus the attack buff from Raphael. the weakness strike doesn't matter. The crit and crit damage, the synergy and synergy power, and then the magic attack from Fern herself again. So we have everything going for us, and then the Centipede has the defense down and ult resistance down. But Fern's normal orbs are doing 287,000, and then her nuke does... Oh, let's go back and... We're going a bit too fast now. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. 20 million damage. 20 and a half. Well, that's really good damage. That's a really good single target nuke damage right there. In 6 turns. Okay. Fantastic. That was pretty painless to get through as well, because between Raphael and Himmel, we pretty much had guaranteed oranges the entire run. So, we're looking good right there. Now let's come back and let's watch a run with Rimuru instead. Alright, so now running the Rimuru team, we're going to use the free green buff from Diablo, because why not? We're going to have a lot of greens here, probably. And then we'll use the steal, we'll bring Fern in. Is this enough to get her EX ult? No. Is that a super huge deal right now? Also, not really, because of Rimuru's gimmick where he makes ults act like orange orbs. The problem is that here we have 1 orange. Okay, great. Even if we steal with Raphael, that's going to give us 5 oranges. Or 4, actually, because we already have multiple Raphael orbs. So, we're already not in a great scenario. We do have 6. That's great. But it's not oranges. And again, if you're in a stage that nerfs blues, those 2 blues are really going to kind of mess with you. And again here, another singular orange orb. Thankfully, we can now take Xion out and swap in Raphael, and we won't have that much of a problem. So let's steal. And then, yep, 1 orange, so we'll steal with that. We do have 6 orbs. And then we can bring Fern in. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send the 5, and that'll get her EX ult. But that would be an awful hand in a Jubilee fight, or a beatdown battle where every point and every stack is necessary. So we're really not looking that good here. We haven't actually sent a full hand of oranges this entire time, realistically. So, let's do it here. I mean, can we do it here? I think so, maybe. Let's do the orange buff, and let's do 1 use of a buff from Fern, because we got the points for it. And then we'll bring Raphael in. We'll steal everything. This still isn't a full hand of oranges, though. And then we can bring Xion in. And then we can send this. And this will actually give us more oranges, technically, because of the gimmick. And her ult will act like an orange. So it's 5 oranges and a blue. So, you know, imagine if we didn't have Raphael, we didn't have an orb sealer, and this is what you're given. Like, that's going to be pretty awful. That's a pretty awful first 5 turns, to be quite honest with you. So, while we are getting the points and we are finding ways around it, it's not very effective. It's not efficient. Especially if you're lacking, like, a big-time character like Raphael. So, let's go ahead and bring Raphael in. Now we have 2 orbs, so we can steal successfully. It's still not 6 oranges, though. It's still not 6 oranges. So we're on turn 5 now. We've got a lot of points. Let's go over into turn 6, and I mean, we're ready to buff now. But if we didn't have Raphael there, like, that would have been legitimately terrible. There would have been no way we would have had enough points. So, I mean, let's buff and buff here. And then, I mean, what else do we have to use? Yeah, just the Fern buff, sorry. So, let's go ahead and nuke. With this stack of Rimuru, we will have 5 stacks total, so we'll match up to what we had with Himmel. And looking at her now, we've got 50% magic attack damage, 5 stacks, plus the 100%, plus the synergy power, plus the magic attack, plus the crit, plus the attack buff right there. And then the ult orb has the 150%, again, 5 stacks of Rimuru. And then everything else because it's acting like an orange orb. And when we nuke here now, so we'll send 1, 2, 3, 4, we're getting 353,000, which is quite a bit higher than what we were getting with the Himmel run. But then Fern's nuke gets us to 22.3 million. So we gained about 2 million extra damage from this whole entire run, using the same buffs using the same amount of stacks. And quite honestly, like, I'd rather just run Himmel. Because unless you're specifically in a Jubilee fight, 20 million is probably going to be enough damage for you in most scenarios, unless you're doing like Inferno 3 or Dire 2 or something. Like, that's probably enough to get you what you want to do there. Especially when you're type neutral, you're not with the force buff and everything. So, yeah. Rimuru will get you more raw damage output. But he needs a lot of help. He needs a lot of setup and a really, really good character to get you there. Because otherwise, your hands are going to look like 5 oranges and a green, or a blue, or an alt and something something, and it's not actually what you want. Because on an orange team where oranges are specifically buffed and greens and blues are probably nerfed, you don't want to send those. That's not going to get you, max gauge, max points, and everything. So having runs and having turns that look like this on a dedicated orange team is just not really what you're looking for. So overall, as we probably expected, is Rimuru will get you more raw damage output. But if I'm going to be honest with you, and we're going type neutral or something, or we're going into a normal battle for Jubilee, I'd rather just run Himmel. Because he's got that built-in orb changing. And the fact that you can still get the same amount of skill points off of Himmel and Rimuru, we can always bring more damage support. We can always bring more buffers. It's just that, can you actually use those buffs? Do you have the points? Do you have the build necessary to get you to that point where you can nuke effectively? Rimuru cannot do that by himself. Himmel, if you get very good RNG, yeah, he can handle all of your orb changing after turn 2. So, I'd rather just use Himmel. But hopefully you enjoyed this little kind of mini science test. I don't think the results were surprising by any means, but they are stacking, they are orange, they are collab. I might as well put them head to head. So let me know what you guys think, but that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.